All right, we're going to finish 1.5 before we go on to 1.6. So go ahead and take a look at this estimating sums and differences math journal page, which is page 11. And it asks you, read the number stories, choose an appropriate estimation strategy. 1. Workers in a toy factory make stuffed bears. The goal is to make at least 1,200 bears every 3 hours. In 1 hour, they made 447 bears. In the next hour, they made 453 bears. In the third hour, they made 458 bears. A. Did they meet the 3-hour goal? B. How did you get your answer? And C. Why did you choose this estimation strategy? So remember, your choices are you can front-end estimate, in which the digit in the highest place value remains the same, while all the other digits in the smaller place values change to zeros. Or you can do close to estimation, where you look for a number that is close to the value of the original number and is easier to work with. Sometimes, remember, they're called friendly numbers. Or you can simply round all numbers to a particular place value, either the hundreds or the thousands in this case. When you are finished with page 11, please stop back at my desk or check in with Mrs. Voorhees or Mrs. Wolfcool to make sure that you did these 2 problems correctly. When you're finished with that, I want you to grab a partner and play Number Top It. You're going to practice comparing large numbers. You are going to need Math Masters, page G2, which is in your file folder. And the directions are in your student reference book, page 269. Pause the tape, remember now, so you can play the game, and then check back in when you're done. Now that you're done with playing Number Top It, I want you to get out your math journal again and do page 12. Now you can do this with a partner if you wish, and go ahead and go to the answer key and correct it. And the final thing you're going to do is page 22, using estimation strategies, which is your loose leaf page that should be in your file folder. So again, you're going to play Number Top It, and there's your place value chart. And then you should go into your math boxes. There's your Top It record sheet for it. Subtract these mentally. This is good practice for you for doing mental math and fluency. Pause it if you need more time. This is your page 12 that is in your math journal that you need to complete and check in the answer key that's provided. And the final thing for this is to read those number stories. These are the problems that are on page 22 of in your file folder. And then we're moving on to lesson 1.6. Lesson 1.6 is a guide to solving number stories. We're going to look at you solving multi-step number stories. We're going to review and apply an approach that can be used to solve number stories. And we're going to have you solve those addition and subtraction number stories. Let's go ahead and go to 1.6. So our first problem says 27 plus 59. Estimate the sums on a whiteboard or on a sheet of paper. After every problem, you should pause what I'm playing by touching down here and stopping it so you can round it for estimation and then give me an answer. I would have done 30 plus 60. So 30 plus 60 is 90. The next one, 52 plus 45. Again, pause it, write it down, see if you agree with your answer, and then turn it back on and listen to my explanation. I would have rounded this to 50 plus 50 by looking at the ones place, telling me what to do, and the tens place. But you also could have looked at front-end estimation, which would have given you 50 plus 40, which is 90. Both answers are correct. And the next one is 88 plus 36. Again, pause it until you figure out which method you want to use for rounding. I would have again looked at the ones place to tell me what to do to that tens place number, and it would have told me to increase 88 to 90, and the 6 would have told me to increase the number 3 to number 4, so I would have 90 plus 40, which is 30. Read the math message on the next screen. Be ready to explain what you already know from the problem and what the problem wants you to find out. This is going to be also in Math Journal, page 13. Terrell is a competitive stair climber. He competes by climbing stairs as fast as he can. This year he wants to climb 400 stories. The Burj Khalifa in the United Arab Emirates is the world's tallest building with 163 stories. The Petronas Towers, the tallest building in Malaysia, has 88 stories. The Zhaifeng Tower in China has 89 stories. If Terrell climbs these 3 buildings, how many more stories will he need to climb to reach his goal of 400? So, estimate. How many stories? Okay, you came up with 50 stories. The real answer would be 60 stories, and here's a number model to show you why. He wants 400 stories, but we're going to take away, and look what I'm showing you here in parentheses, the 163 stories, which you could have rounded to 160, 88, which you would have rounded to 90, which is 250, plus another 90, which is 340, which gives you the difference of 60. So, what do you know from reading this story? Well, we know for sure the number of stories in each of the 3 buildings that Terrell plans to climb, and we know the total number of stories he wants to climb. So what do you want to find out? Good, if you went back and looked in your page 13 of your journal, we still want to find out how many more stories Terrell needs to climb to reach that 400. Next, work through the problem with the how can you find the number of stories Terrell needs to climb? Or how could you have? Well, we did it. We combined the number of stories for the 3 buildings and then found the difference between that sum and the 400 total that Terrell wanted to climb. What should you have done first? Well, you should have combined the number of stories for the 3 buildings. Remember, what you wrote there for the number model with the answer is known as a number model. Okay? So what was the unknown quantity? Well, the combined number of stories for the 3 buildings. We had to do that work to find it. So we did that by writing 163 plus 88 plus 89 equals S for stories. So were you finished or not just with that information? You're right, you weren't, because you still needed to find out how many stories Terrell still needs to climb. There's something called variables, and that means you can put a letter from the alphabet in for an answer that you do not know. So you could have written 400 minus, remember, this is what we had to add together. We had to add the 163 stories plus the 88 stories plus the 89 stories. We knew that's a step we had to do, but what we didn't know was what our answer would be until we did all these steps. We should call that N. But remember, you could call that A, you could call that B. It just means that there is an answer missing here, and we need to represent it somehow. So we do it by placing a letter of the alphabet in that spot. If you need to, Standards for Mathematical Practice gives you a guide in your student reference book, page 26, and you should pause the tape and go get that now if you do not have one. When you come back, I want you to pay special attention to page 26 because it actually gives you steps to follow in order to help solve number problems. And this again is showing you what we did to solve that answer. So if we said N is our answer, if you notice here then, that means that N actual equals 60 because we put the number 60, our answer, in place of that letter N. An estimation. On page 13 and 14 that you were working on, go ahead and do that with a partner and see if you can complete any of those problems. If you can't, pop back and we'll help you with it. Stop the tape now, though, to make sure that you understand the directions, or rewind it and replay it. 13 and 14 is something that I want you to allow myself or Mrs. Voorhees or Mrs. Wolfkuhl to watch you do and hear your discussions, because it is part of your assessment piece. Pause the tape now and do that. When you come back, you're going to practice playing spin and round. You're going to need student reference book page 273 and Math Masters pages from your file folder, G5 and G6. You need to play spin and round to practice rounding numbers through the 100,000s. Stop the tape now, find a partner. If not, look for myself, Mrs. Voorhees, or Mrs. Wolfkuhl, and see if someone's available to help you play it. When you come back with a partner, I'd like you to do math boxes on page 15 in your math journal. And yes, you may work with a partner again on that. Pause the tape now till you complete that, and then turn the tape back on for your final instruction for 1-6. Once you finish playing spin and round, I want you to get the home link for 1-6, which is page 25, entitled Animal Number Stories. They're having you practice solving multiple step addition and subtraction number stories, and then checking whether the answers make sense. So what I would like you to do is finish that page. When you finish that page, I want you to turn it in to me, and I will check it to make sure that you understand how to do this. And again, at any time when I give an instruction, if you're not caught up with me, stop and pause the playing tape, and then turn it back on when you're ready to proceed on. This is the end of 1-6. Thank you.